My father was a quiet man of great depth. He was a deep thinker. He was a logical thinker. He was not just a Holocaust survivor, but he was a hero.
Max grew up in pre-war Europe in a shtetl. One day, while he was in yeshiva, somebody had come around, taught the boys how a battery works and how to make batteries. So when the SS marched into Radomsk, he went to the head SS officer and said, "I know how to make batteries, and I can make a factory for you for the war."
It's because of my father and several people like him that had factories that the Germans needed. He employed about 50 people in the ghetto and saved their lives. My father's factory was a beacon of safety and sanctuary.
Max had an incredible tenacity to him, and that saved him and saved hundreds of people.
When the war ended, my father made a conscious decision not to give the Germans, Yimach Shalom, a posthumous victory. He says the only thing we could do is to dust ourselves off and start again. And people like my dad were instrumental in reviving Yiddishkeit after the war. He worked his whole life to preserve Yiddishkeit, to rebuild it in a new place in America. He was unwavering in his absolute commitment to preserve the Torah. My father was in University Towers. He needed a place to daven. He had had several other medical problems. He found it more and more difficult to get out, especially on Shabbos. And when he heard there might be a possibility of a Hamish shul in the building, he not only went, but he realized that this was something valuable. As the shul progressed, it became very clear that he felt like this was the shul of his childhood. It was the kind of shul that he davened in. When he was a young man, he understood the importance of having this specific type of shul that didn't exist really in this form in the community.
He used to tell us, "Oh, this is the shtivel of my youth. This is what it used to be like in Europe." And he had remarked to us several times, he hadn't seen anything like this in all of his days since he had left Europe. And learning with him, because of that, was always an inspiration. It was a privilege and a schus to be able to learn with him and to learn from him.
He had a fire for Yiddishkeit. He had this bren where he would learn every single day. He would want to learn. He was always seeking chavrusas. He wanted to build the shul with us. He was invested in Yiddishkeit to continuing on to the next generation.
My father was not just proud of what the shul became and what he hoped it would become. He was passionate about it. And when he got on a project, he just went with it. His involvement with the shul was really he felt was the culmination of a lifetime.
Max Rozmaryn was a warm, friendly face, every time ready to talk about the shul, learn together, and always was so excited to see me. Max was basically exactly what the shul stood for.
So Max Rozmaryn, for us, was really the symbol of what we were all trying to achieve, to be a man who'd been through an entire lifetime, raised a beautiful family, had been through so much, and yet when he came to see us, he wanted to be learning. He wanted to tell us about what he was learning. He wanted to teach, and he spent his day learning.
Max's legacy reverberates through this base medrash every single day. When someone learns Torah, when someone attends a minyan, he is in this base medrash every single day.
I came the night before his passing, and I said, Dad, how are you doing? He goes, I'm very, very tired. And I said, Dad, you're not sick. Dad, you're 97. He goes, 97? That's very sad. I said, Dad, you outlived everybody in your yeshiva by 72 years. You got to see children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. You got to found shuls. You got to build a whole new generation after the Shoah. You got to see the state of Israel. You got to see the liberation of Yerushalayim. You got to go to the Kotel. How many people in your town, what would they have given to be able to stand in front of the Kotel? I think 97 is pretty good. He smiled and he said, Leo, 97 is good. That was the last thing that was the last thing he ever said to me. And then the next morning it was Nifter.